Dice, yeah, ay, ay.
Grief is something we all face, yet no one truly teaches us how to live with it. Today's guest, psychologist and grief guide Dr. Lynn Banis, knows this journey deeply, not just professionally, but personally. After losing her husband, her brother, and later her mother, Lynn learned that grief isn't something you get over, but something you learn to carry with compassion. We talk about loss, love, resilience, and the quiet ways healing shows up when we least expect it. This isn't a heavy episode, it's a gentle one. This is the FYI I Am Damaged podcast. Now a word from our sponsor. Oscar wrote a wonderful children's book called Logan, The Strong-Minded Little Elephant. Check it out.
Meet Logan, the strong-minded little elephant who learns that bravery isn't about being fearless. It's about believing in yourself even when you're scared. In this beautifully illustrated story, friends follow Logan through a colorful jungle as he learns to calm his worries, take deep breaths, and remind himself, I am strong, I am safe, I can do this. It's a story that helps kids, and maybe a few grown-ups too, find courage, mindfulness, and strength in their hearts. Logan, the Strong-Minded Little Elephant by me, Oscar Luna. Available now at all major retailers and my publisher's bookstore, Milton and Hugo. Because it's up to every parent to show that their child deserves to know that strength starts from within.
Dr. Lynn Banis, thank you for joining me on another episode of FYI I Am Damaged.
I'm delighted. Thank you.
Now, can I call you Lynn? Is that
Sure.
okay?
Absolutely.
Now, Lynn, before that 3-year span of losses, how would you describe your life, what it looked like then, and the outlook you had for it?
Well, it was very subdued. My husband and I were both retired, and I had finally decided I would, stop working. I had been doing that for a long time, but, we were doing some things and doing some traveling, but he began to not be so healthy, and so it was difficult to travel, but that's what we love to do.
Okay. And how was it with your mother and brother? Are you a huge family? Were you constantly in contact?
My mother lived with us. She came to live with us when she was 100, and she made it to 106, which was amazing. And of course, that was just an incredible time of bonding. So, it's one of those things where you say, I didn't leave anything out. She knew
Very true.
exactly how I felt and vice versa. And my younger brother, which is not supposed to happen, I live in Virginia and they lived in Ohio. So that's a long day's drive.
Okay. And you guys always kept in communication with one
Yeah.
another?
Yeah.
Okay. I would be interested to know, how was your, hitting 100? What was your mother's reflection on life and everything she's seen, thus far?
She was the most positive person I have ever encountered. She was an Olympic diver. She dove in the 1932 World's Fair in Chicago into the lagoon off a 32-foot tower. You're not going to catch me up there. But she was just always really positive and very humble. Nobody knew those things. She just, she just did her thing, and very pragmatic. Took life as it came and just expected it that way. As a matter of fact, she was in a assisted living for a little bit during COVID, and the nurses said she was the only one in the whole, 50 people that understood what was going on and wasn't complaining about it. So, and she was up there. So she was just really amazing, and she expected every day to be sunshine, and she made it that way.
That's awesome. Now, with all three, your mother, brother, and husband, all dying within such a short window, what changed first? Your emotions, your routine, your sense of who you were, or was it something else?
Well, I think routine is immediately changed. Every single thing in your life changes when you lose your identity, and that's mostly if it's your spouse, but not necessarily. Certainly the emotion is immediate, but then my husband was in the hospital when he passed, so then you go home and everything's changed. And it's, that it is not a linear process. Going through grief is, you might go one step ahead and come back, and then, so it's it's just really a day at a time, and you've just got to live in and be with yourself and let the grief sit with the grief, because it's not going to go away. But if you push it down, then we know you get sick. So um
Now, you said no amount of education prepared you for the depth of your own grief. Can you remember a moment when you understood the tools I gave other people aren't enough for me right now?
yeah, I mean, there were times, when the despair is so deep that you just can't do anything but cry. You don't want to move, you don't want to do anything. And I remember many times where I felt so lonely and like physically hurt. And that was a big surprise to me. Just didn't realize that could happen.
Yeah, that I don't know. And I haven't yet to. I know I will. I haven't yet to experience that feeling through grief. But of course, like breakups. So, but I wouldn't imagine it's not as intense as you're not going to see your loved one again, and all you have now is their memories, maybe a few things that has traded back and forth between family members through love. And so that feeling must, I'm sure it's as gut wrenching as it sounds.
It is, absolutely. Absolutely. And of course, it depends on your relationship with the person. So if you have built your life around that person, then you really have totally lost your identity.
Absolutely. I can connect to that. Now, you talked about cocooning, being surrounded by love, yet feeling purposeless and unmotivated. How do you distinguish between necessary withdrawal and getting stuck in isolation?
That is a wonderful question. And so many people get really stuck in it. Being a psychologist, I, knew that I had to stay there for a while, because you don't bypass it. You have to go through it. But I also knew that there was something beyond it, and that it would be less intense over time. But, in the beginning, you have to be very gentle with yourself, and you have to understand that well-meaning people will come by and say, "Aren't you feeling better yet? Aren't you better yet?" And you want to yell at them, hell no, but you can't and you don't. And that's one of the problems. We don't talk about it. If someone says, "How are you doing?" I'm going to say, "Okay," when inside I'm screaming, and that's not right. We've got to break down those kind of taboos in our society and make this just a part of living, because it is. And I think that some of the grieving would be a little bit easier if we spent more time acknowledging what it's like, and preparing, and then turning it as we can into a celebration that someone has been here and done all the things that they've done. And there are many cultures that do use, they celebrate the passing, the transition to the next step. But we don't do that, and it's too bad. But that's part of what I like to do also, is talking to groups and getting them to understand that you don't have please don't try to fix somebody. You can't fix them. You don't have to even talk. Just be there. Just think. Don't bring 15 casseroles to one single person. My kids got sick and tired of lasagna. No, Mom, no, get it out of here. And, you know, think of it, that's one person, unless they have a big family. Small things, they're not going to want to eat. You know, your appetite just goes away. So
That's
small
a
things
lot.
like
Yeah, that's the last
a
thing you want to
small
do.
bowl of fruit, you know, some little snackies. Don't give them something you have to cook because they're not going to do it. And it's just too exhausting. But, you know, if you go to visit, which is lovely, don't try to talk. Don't try to make them talk. Just sit with them. That's all people need is the presence of someone there.
Completely agree. Yeah. And to me, that's something, whether it's either something as big as losing someone or even a breakup or anything like that, it never tuned in with me to be like, oh, the person's in a better place, or saying those default things. It's like, to me, it doesn't hit as hard as someone just saying, hey, look, I'm here for you. And do you want me to leave? Do you just want the company? Like you just said, just the presence of another individual being there, so that, especially if it's somebody that you trust, so
Yes.
that if the thoughts come up, it's like, okay, I'm not going to fix this for you, but, I got my ears open for you,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. My shoulders
sometimes,
are broad. If you want a hug, I'll give you a hug. If you just want to sit in silence, that's fine. I'm here to keep you company. And, people don't know what to do. And you can't ask somebody that's in that state because they don't know what they want. They really don't. They're just wallowing in their misery at that point. So if you go to visit somebody and you see there's some dishes that need to be done, just get up and do it. Don't, because they'll say, oh, no, it's fine.
yeah,
Just do things that you see need to be done, and very calmly, because that's what's needed. Their emotions are so jumbled.
yes,
You can go from just crying your heart out one minute to laughing hysterically the next. It's just a very, very strange progression of things, even in just a day.
a song can make you dance or it can make you cry, and those, and it's something you touched on before, that you were speaking earlier, where it was true. I had an ex-wife who lost her mother, but before she lost her, it was she. How can I put this? We knew it was going to happen, so and she was in the Caribbean, and we were talking to the family to say, hey, look, the burial costs it's going to cost a chunk of change. They do have a sort of insurance that once they do pass, you pay into it, it'll cover the burial costs. And they were so against it. They're like, what? You're already burying her? Thinking that it was kind of heartless, and never wanted to touch on that. We're like saying, hey, look, guys, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. And when it's time to basically pay the piper, who's going to do it? Everybody started looking away, and we had to cover the cost. And it's facing one of those things to help. She did that to help. She knew it was going to impact her. That's her mom. But to know that we were planning ahead to make sure that it wouldn't be, her mother didn't want it to be a burden.
Of course.
But everybody in the family was against it, thinking like, okay, no, diabetes was, ravaging her. She was in the old age. She was in her 70s. And we were like, we have to plan for this. And to see that the non-acceptance, and to know that, okay, you'll be here for me when she's gone, but everybody provides emotionally. Nobody could provide in a resource way. And it's a different way of thinking, to know that if you're in a space to prepare, please do so.
Absolutely. And also recognize there's such a thing as anticipatory grief. And so when you know something's going to happen, you are already grieving. And so recognize that your emotions are just really up and down. And when that happens, our brain literally shuts down. So we can't make good decisions. I have a checklist of things to do to prepare for the loss of someone. I'd be delighted to shoot it over to you, and you can let people download it,
Of course.
because I think it's just so important to sit down as a family and talk about this.
Yeah, it's like how Benjamin Franklin said, it's inevitable, like taxes.
Yeah.
And death and taxes, and you can't escape it. And if you could, great, awesome. But 99%, 99.9% of us can't.
Sorry.
It's okay. I'm a dog person, so
Oh, okay.
it'll never bother me in a bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Now, widows often say they lose not just a spouse, but much of their social circle. From
Yes.
your experience, what are some of the most painful and practical changes that hit after the funeral is over?
I think one of the most painful is the loss of your friends, and it's usually couples. And my belief is that they are so uncomfortable. They're used to having the two of you there. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to say, and so it's easier just to not connect. I mean, and it's not like the minute they hear what's going on, but as time goes on, it it just doesn't happen. And it's very, some people say, oh, well, you know who your real friends are. I don't think that's fair. And I don't think that's true. I think that so many people are so uncomfortable with this. We prepare people for all sorts of things in their lives, but we certainly don't prepare them for marriage, for death, for raising children, and the important things.
Yeah.
And so people don't know how to handle it, and they're so uncomfortable, and they're sure they're making you uncomfortable. So, it's just kind of like a circle that just keeps going around and around and around. And
Yeah.
it's sad, but on the other hand, recognize that nobody is going to truly understand unless they've been through it. And even then, everyone grieves differently. But to find some people who are going through what you're going through, it's so liberating to be able to just sit down and know they understand, and you don't have to explain anything. The problem with those groups is if they get into just a pity party, and that does happen. And so, that's something that you've got to really look out for, because that just pushes it deeper and deeper and deeper in your psyche and everything, and it makes it harder to heal and move forward.
So you have experienced that, like those grief groups that kind of chase their own tail without trying to get out of that spin of the grief and move towards something positive? What would keep them in that kind of grief spiral?
I think part of it is people, they trust the people that they feel a connection because they've experienced so much of the same thing, but it just has evolved into just going over and over and over and over, and that happened to you, well, this happened to me today, and last week this happened. And so what I do is I take people into my practice when they've gotten to the point where they can manage their emotions pretty well, and the brain fog has started to lift, because we do a lot of work with mindset and self-limiting beliefs and values, and making sure those are all aligned. And then I do something with them that I don't really think, I know other people don't do it because they don't have the technology I have. Study when a person is in flow, and I can tease out who they are, what they do, how they do it. And the most important piece that people don't do is go back and look at what environment will support that person to stay in that state. And then we take all of that information and start building what they want their life to look like. And, they build a blueprint, and then I put them in a group, like a mastermind group with other women who are going through the same thing. And they ensure that each other get in there and actually make the changes they need to make.
That's awesome. I like that. And it definitely gets them, I guess, curious as to where they were with the person, where they're at, and just gets them hopefully on a better footing, which it sounds like it does.
Yeah, absolutely does. Otherwise you're doing half the job halfway, and when you're done with them, they haven't internalized it. It has to be somatic as well as intellectual.
You eventually turn your psychologist and coaching skills inward. What was one belief about yourself or your future that you had to unlearn before anything could shift?
I think one thing which is typical of many, many people is I had to let go of thinking I was alone and not being able to reach out, even to my family. It's like, well, you don't want to bother your kids. And so that is often a big barrier.
Yeah, to be a
Um,
burden, or
yeah,
thinking you're a burden. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And the truth of the matter is you need to work to grieve together, and you need to talk about things, and my family and I have changed most of our traditions because they were too painful with several deaths. It was just too painful. So we got together and say, okay, what could we do? And we made changes which fit us just fine right now.
Awesome. Because you think a lot of people wouldn't want to give up any traditions or things of that nature to say, because then they think you're not honoring the person correctly. But then, like you said, it's just too painful. Like,
Yeah, and what's correct and who says?
absolutely, you're absolutely right. It's like, okay, it's not set in stone. This is what we agreed on. We can agree to change it.
You agreed at one point to have a turkey dinner, and now maybe you're going to agree to have pizza or whatever you want to do. And I can pretty much guarantee you the kids will be delighted that they don't have to sit around a formal table anymore. That just isn't in the style of the young people these days.
No, yeah. If I swear, if my kids didn't have a device in their hands, it's like, guys, come on. Then one day you're gonna end up like taking a bite out of it. It's like, oh, come on, let's switch it up a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely get it. Now, when you guide widows now, how do you help them honor their grief and gently introduce the idea that they're allowed to want more than just getting through the day?
Absolutely. I think my belief is that the process is not one of moving on to something else. It's one of discovering who you really are underneath all the layers of junk that life has put on you, and get back to who you were and who you came here for. And so that in itself allows you to open up to things and to say, this was a very important part of my life, and I don't want to forget it. Well, you're not going to forget it. So start talking about it. If you want to have a little memorial in your house, put it there, and I will, something happened the other day. I can't remember what it was. And I just said out loud, Bill, you would love this.
Mhm.
And those things I think make it easier on you because the person isn't gone. That love is still in your heart. And so, I just feel very comforted by things like that.
Do you find yourself having those brief conversations, or I'm sure you guys would update each other on your days and everything like that. Do you kind of continue that? And is that something safe and honorable to do as a person who is grieving or getting past the grief? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's safe as long as you don't make it maudlin, or you've got to treat it as this is just a part of my day. I do not do that. I think that both my husband and I were very independent, and we would kind of go our own way during the daytime and come back together in the evening and, have dinner together and sit around and watch the TV or whatever we were doing that day. But, I don't know. We had been married for 35 years, both of us, deep in psychology, so we really knew each other pretty well, which is scary, I guess, but but that's okay. So, for me, it is what I ended up doing. I spent my life as an executive coach teaching people how to be their best, how to interact with people in the best way and have them react in the best way they could. And my husband did some very similar things, although he worked in universities and did career development and eventually had all of the student services under him. But I am convinced, well, I just know I am continuing what we both did, what we both loved. And to me, that's honoring him.
And it's very, and I feel what you say, because I'm sure you guys have probably done the self-analyzation, your mate analyzation. So like you said, it's like we just look at each other and we know. I'm
Yeah.
sure that's probably how it was, and that's something great to aspire to. And then I've seen couples, and I see them, and I would kind of think that way, like they come home and they're talking and they're, what did you do, this, and the kids and everything like that. And I think that would probably be me. I probably would have like a picture there and go, because we do that now. It's like, and we try to do that. It's like, how's the day? What's going on? What's up with the kids? How was work? And I think that's something good, as long as it doesn't put you in a sort of negative space.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And if you don't have anyone you can do that with, journal, write a story. Sometimes I write something in AI and just say, this is what's happening. I feel bad about it. And I get back, this positive reinforcement. I have to remind myself it's a bot. It is not a human being. But some of that, as long as you keep it in perspective, is fine, because you're able to get some things off your chest. And sometimes
Very
it's
true.
just important to say something, to
Yes.
put it in paper in words,
I definitely I'm starting to love journaling. I was gifted a journal, and I do my best to do it day by day. Normally it's every other day, but I'm starting to really like it. Started really to get into it. 1 page a day, express what's on my mind or what may have happened the other day. And I co-sign what you just said. Journaling is it's very nurturing to your soul
Yeah,
to get
it
everything
is.
down on paper, and it's push yourself to express, and it gives you a sort of different insight. It changes the tone of the day right after you finish.
It does. It does. And there have been times when I've just asked AI, please give me some prompts, some journaling prompts. This is where I am right now. And that has been helpful, because it's gotten into some deep stuff, which I might not have thought of myself.
No, it's true. I encourage people I don't discourage them to use AI, but what I tell them is, because when they ask me about it, because my background is in IT, so you get the flood of questions. And I said, well, my thought on it is that it should be sort of if you don't have the feeling of a regular muse, it is best to use it as a digital muse, as a sort of Kickstarter. And if you rely on it too heavy, then you kind of tend to lose yourself,
Sure
and
you do.
you lose your core of your essence of basically putting your flavor on it, in a sense, lack of a better word. And I tell people, please don't. It'll give you way more than what you're asking for, but you risk losing yourself and your tone and your flavor of what you're trying to get across to someone. And don't let that be the easy way out. So I completely
Exactly.
agree. Yeah.
Exactly. And you can program an agent so that it really gets your flair and understands how you would say something, and that helps a little bit when you're trying to, how do I say this to somebody, or this just happened, I don't know how to interpret that. And one of the interesting things, I'm about to launch a community platform, and it's different. It has all the functionality of say Facebook, but it's different in that I have built tools in it. So you know, a couple of things that women have a hard time with. One is detecting BS, and the other is understanding when they're being gaslighted. So I have two different tools on there. I have a BS detector and a gaslighting detector, and they're called a little bit something different than that. But put in there, this is what happened, and it's programmed so it'll come back and say, this is what that means. How did you respond to it? What was the outcome? Would you like to have some more ideas about how you could respond? And so, I think that's, hopefully I can't wait to get it up and launched, because I think it'll be very helpful to people.
That's great. A lot of people do seek that clarity, and to give it something that can be automatic, that I think would be awesome.
Yeah.
Now, you said you don't stop at empathy. You stay with women as they implement a new chapter. What does that implementation phase look like in real life? What are they doing differently?
Okay. They have gone through some individual and group work to the point where they have a clear vision of what they want their life to look like. We've created a blueprint, so they know pretty much what they have to do. Then they get in this mastermind group with other women, hold each other responsible. So they'll talk about, this is what's happened. This is what I'm planning to do. When we come back and meet again, they're reporting on it, and they're getting support, and they're getting encouragement. So that's the way we do it, so that there's an opportunity to contact me in between if there's issues, and they have a chat place where they can chat with each other. But it just becomes a very supportive group, and it's kind of interesting because so many of them say, I don't want to quit. I want to just stay in these groups because they're so supportive.
That's great. And that's something really needed right now, support. A lot of people feel alone or whatever they can feel, and it's very taxing. It's very taxing on the soul.
It is. It
Yeah,
is. And we don't realize it, but we are all grieving our loss of the life we lived before COVID.
very true.
And so many of us are thinking, oh, I'm just stressed. I'm burned out. A lot of it is you're grieving and don't realize it. And so, that's an important thing. Again, the talking to people, and they're already calling the loneliness a pandemic.
Yeah, I interviewed a individual. Yeah, his name was Gabor Kadas. He saw that and he felt that, and he's actually created and he's cultivating what's called the friending app, where it focuses on that human connection of just friendship and builds it in such a way where it's authentic. You don't have to worry about anyone being fake on there. But he saw that need, after COVID, to reconnect people.
Hmm.
And, I jumped on interviewing him, and it's a great, it's very a noble thing. And, you know, to see that and that social isolation, it's very real. People don't, even though you see people walking around more than you did during COVID, and, no one's spraying each other with Lysol or anything like that, or have like five masks on, you know, but even till now, it's like if I don't know you, like yeah, I could walk right next to you, but there's no connection there.
Right, right. And even, with all the Zoom meetings and stuff that we have, it's much different. It's not like having someone in the office next door to you or a neighbor dropping by for coffee. And so I think we really have to work on that.
Yeah, it really made the difference when I never took a break through COVID. Like my wife, she immediately was working from home, which was fortunate because we just moved into a new home and we have three kids. One was a preemie, newborn, and seeing her go through that, and it took a toll on her and it took a toll on me as well, because at that point in time I'm doing IT for the fire department, and their headquarters are in downtown Brooklyn. I'm going back and forth, and 2-hour commute, and dealing with being in support of individuals who are working remote while I'm in the office, supporting them while they're supporting the first responders, while they're supporting the city, and everything's, locked up, people are passing, and it it took a toll on everybody.
It
We
sure
were
did.
exhausted, the support personnel for the technology sector of the FDNY, we were drained. It was insane, and those are the stories you kind of don't hear if somebody doesn't want to tell it. And I definitely always keep putting that out there. It's like it was way more than people were passing, people were affected, people were lonely, but there were those that were weaving in between all of that to be in support of those and the infrastructure. And
Right.
I could only imagine, like, I would think of, what are those guys who are working for, like, we have the utility company like Con Ed. I don't know if you're in New York or where
No,
where
I'm in
you're at.
Virginia, but we've got
Yeah, so it's like those individuals, they probably never they didn't they you can't fix pipe from home. You can't fix electrical cables from home. You have to be out there, and it took a toll on them as well. And God
and
forbid.
one of the big things I think was the fear of catching something, from somebody. All the healthcare was just devastated.
They were. And I always tell this story, like, I was fielding like a support call from a EMT worker. She called me crying. She's like, "Oh my God," she's there on the front line. She's seeing the bodies in the trailers when they had to shift to that mode of support, and just broke down. And it gave me a glimpse of, like, she's dealing with that. She's grieving people that she doesn't even know. So to deal with that, it's like, okay, now I see it, that if it happens again, support in that sort of method needs to be for those type of individuals as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely.
Not just a
Absolutely.
checkup. It's just something like, it's something better needs to be done. So this is why, one of the reasons why I jumped on an interview with you, because the way you're trying to do that as well, like, is very commendable, because structures like this need to be put into place, because, like you said, everyone's grieving something. So if grief is always going to be there, the infrastructure to support those who are grieving is just as essential.
Absolutely. And the pre-work, the preparation, helping us understand what it is, what to expect, and how to deal with it. That's just totally lacking.
Yeah, absolutely. You would still see those people like, well, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, get over it, and just push through it. That's not for everybody. That's not a huge subset of the culture to do that to get past it.
No,
No,
no. And when you do, you often end up pushing it down inside, which is not healthy.
not at all. No, for someone listening who is newly widowed and feeling, quote unquote, lazy or broken because they can't function the way they used to, what would you most want them to hear? What would you most want them to hear from you today?
I want people to understand that this life, every experience they've had, every difficulty, every joyful thing has prepared you for where you are right now. It's inside you. If you don't know how to tap it and utilize it, contact somebody who really knows what they're doing and will help you, walk you hand in hand through the process. Because I truly believe nobody should have to do it alone.
I agree. I agree. And you touch on something that most people feel afraid to do, and they feel too afraid to ask for help. And that is so alien to me now. I understand it because I've been through that in my life, and I wouldn't ask for people for help in certain situations unless it really got bad. And then you hear well, you should have hit me up a little bit earlier. Don't Why did you wait till it got this bad? And so I'm here through experience. I would love for people to learn from that rather than, go through it. And don't be
Absolutely.
afraid to ask for help, or at least brainstorm with somebody. Go, well, I don't want you to help me, but at least give me some pointers and guides to say, where can I start if you're not going to really accept help from someone? There are very strong people out there,
Yeah,
but even then it's to their detriment because they don't know how to get out of it. They're
exactly.
too much in the storm.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. And that's a sad fact of our society for sure.
Now, when a widow starts to glimpse a new sense of purpose, what tends to scare her the most? Guilt, judgment of others, or fear of being hurt again?
Those are things that I work with my clients on to get rid of those kinds of beliefs so that they have the strength to step out, because the things that have blocked us in our life block us in this process. And sometimes that gets even stronger. So we need help trying to figure out what they are and figure out how do I let go of that and adopt something that's going to be much more supportive of me. And I think that so many women have forgotten how to love themselves and allow themselves, oh, I can't spend money on this. But you can't not spend money on it. Just think how much it's going to cost you if you get sick or if you have to end up that miserable the rest of your life. That's nobody can put a price tag on that.
No, they can't. Now, looking ahead, what kind of culture around grief and widowhood do you hope your work contributes to? What would be different in how we talk, plan, and care for each other?
I am very, very interested in building a movement where there are groups of pockets of women all over the world who are supporting one another, who know how to facilitate a small group that just needs the nurturing and the love and beginning to understand themselves and, reaching out and building that camaraderie and friendships. That's what I do.
That's great and I have friends that are like that as well, that they stick to that mantra, I'm good if they're good. I'm good if my friends are good. I'm good if my family members are good. I'm good if my kids are good. You're like, okay, so what if you're not good? What if you're, you know, too caught up in yourselves? Then, of course, they're not going to be good. So, what are you doing for yourself? You know, in your own life, not in a selfish way, you should come first.
Well, that's one of the biggest fears I think of Americans is to really sit down and take a good look at who they are, how they operate in the world, how they impact other people. We just worry about, oh, well, I have to be accepted. So, I have to overdo this or I have to do that. And chances are people are not judging you. They aren't paying any attention to any of it, but you've got this going in your brain and it just messes things up and it really hinders you moving to be the person that you need to be.
It's and it's so funny you mentioned that because I would have that conversation, and if I'm speaking with someone and they say, "Oh, but people are going to think this, people are going to think that." I go, "Okay, let me ask you something. If you see somebody and they're doing something, are you judging them or you're more into what you need to handle and do what you need to do? Like, well, I'm doing what I need to do. Okay, so you're not judging them. What makes you think they're going to be judging you? Like you're not on their hit list of judgment to be like, okay, so nobody's judging you. And even if they are, why would you give them that weight and that power?
Yeah, power, give your power away. And what are you thinking yourself that you are so important that everybody is paying attention to you? Pay attention to other people. Do for other people, and you will feel great about yourself.
Absolutely. And finally, where can widows or people who love them connect with you if they want guidance in moving from loneliness towards real connection and a life that feels worth living again?
Okay, well, I have an app called Women Rising Together. And We'll have this new platform soon. I can send you information about how to contact me, and I will send you that report or the checklist, and that'll have all my information on it. So people can contact me that way.
Awesome. Well, Lynn, thank you very much for being on my show. I really appreciate your insight. I appreciate your movement to just make everything better again.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate you doing this. It's a real important piece for people
Thank
to
you
know
very
there's
much.
somebody out there that cares.
Absolutely. And my heart goes out to you in the same way that you're still continuing to care. I'm sure you could probably be on some tropical island right now, soaking in the sun with a drink, but you're putting in the work and the effort to be there for other individuals that you do and don't know. And that
That's
is
right.
very admirable.
Well, thank you. But that's who I am.
And let me be the first or one of the many to say thank you. And, we really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Banis.
Thank you, Oscar. That was a great and insightful episode. If today's conversation stayed within your head or heart, even both, that's a positive thing. Grief has a way of opening quiet doors inside us. Lynn reminds us that healing doesn't mean forgetting, fixing, or rushing forward. It means listening, softening, and allowing ourselves to grow around what we've lost. You don't have to be strong all the time, you just have to be honest with where you are. Give yourself grace and remember grief doesn't mean you're broken. It means you loved, and that love still matters. Adelante siempre por tu mente, forward, always, for your mind. This is the FYI I Am Damaged podcast.
Meet Logan, the strong-minded little elephant who learns that bravery isn't about being fearless. It's about believing in yourself even when you're scared. In this beautifully illustrated story, friends follow Logan through a colorful jungle as he learns to calm his worries, take deep breaths, and remind himself, I am strong, I am safe, I can do this. It's a story that helps kids, and maybe a few grown-ups too, find courage, mindfulness, and strengthen their hearts. Logan, the strong-minded little elephant, by me, Oscar Luna. Available now at all major retailers and my publisher's bookstore, Milton and Hugo. Because it's up to every parent to show that their child deserves to know that strength starts from within.